This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 21st of August, 2020, and I am Tuje.
I'm Tuam.
And I am Miss K, the OG host. In case you missed them, these are the headlines. Daily Nation, COVID tears apart Kenyan families. The Standard, merchants of power. And The Star, Moi, mover and shaker in new Uhuru faction.
Yes.
Let's start with the Daily Nation. Let's get this over with. COVID is here, and this is a very, very sad story. It begins with Aisha Langoni, the firstborn daughter of Coast politician Ramadhan Kajembe, who was buried yesterday under strict COVID-19 protocols after the death of both her father and her mother. The story then goes on to Bungoma County, where another family in Sirisia constituency is in agony after the virus claimed two of its family members, Wendy and Elizabeth.
Yeah. I think what really stood out to me in this story is how much it reminded me of other stories I've seen from across the world. Lots of stories similar to this where one family member has contracted COVID and then has come on to then pass it on to other family members. And unfortunately, so it goes. Sometimes it passes on and none of the family members end up making it out alive. And what it really pointed out to me is how important it is for us to stay safe in this moment. You go visit your grandparents, you go visit your parents, you go visit your family members, and you do not know what harm you are bringing into their households. So I think as much as possible, it's so important for us to just listen to what the Ministry of Health is telling us. Wash your hands, stay safe, don't go for parties, don't get drunk in public spaces. Just keep safe because you don't know what harm you're bringing to those that you love.
And the vulnerabilities that we are all exposed to during this season.
Tujay, what you're saying is true. If at all the nation believed in it. You see, it's fellows. And Roger Stone calls the media evil and lazy. This headline, COVID tears apart Kenyan families. It's not that they care. They are actually profiting away. They're profiting from death.
Yeah.
See, they've been running a story from Sunday, or COVID millionaires. It's a nonsense story. See, Proverbs chapter 16, verse 27 to 29.
Oh, wow, we have a Bible verse today.
Yes, today I'm going to church.
Take us to church,
it says, idle hands are the devil's workshop, idle lips are his mouthpiece. Now, idle people and the nation has known is people are in a state of economic downturn. People are not doing well economically, and they're very likely to be switched on by a story that says someone has benefited from COVID, because they say if people are suffering and someone else is doing well, then we have to tell that story and make it seem like
you're suffering because that person is doing well.
Yes, you're suffering because that person is doing well, and they've been running this COVID millionaires story.
Yeah.
And what's my point here? This corruption expose by the nation, and that's exactly what they're doing by saying someone has died. It is stigmatizing. Number one, a family that has lost 3 family members. There is absolutely no reason why that should be a headline depicting a family or showing a family that has lost 3 family members in less than just.
You know what, Tuam?
They're profiting from that headline.
As much as I believe that we need to stay safe, I 100% agree with you. And I think that this is what we keep talking about, this disaster capitalism. And do you remember at the beginning of Winning Headlines, we always used to talk about lifting that veil of ignorance. And I think this is the perfect moment to do that. As you were talking about the Daily Nation, talking about the COVID millionaires, I want to take us back to July 14th, where their headline was, Lives and Stories of the Ones We Lost. You are probably among those asking, do you know anyone who has died from COVID? That was their sub-headline. And I don't think if I had lost somebody who had died from COVID, the first thing I would do is go to the newspaper and say, does the newspaper also know that I have lost them?
Let me tell you.
You would be in your own sorrow.
Exactly. They are participating in disaster capitalism. As much as we talk about COVID millionaires, they are participating and winning also from this crisis that we are in.
Idle hands are the devil's workshop. Idle lips are his mouthpiece. Nation is a devil's workshop.
Amen.
We have a 3-part criteria that we use to break down the headlines. For you, we ask ourselves 3 questions. Is this headline topical or is it speculative? Is it repetitive or groundbreaking? And is it thoughtful or just plain lazy?
Plain lazy.
Then we toss it. And we move on to the next headline, Merchants of Power. Kingpins.
Yes, the Standard rather, is telling us about the kingpins, as you said, Miss K. Some are vocal, others carry out their duties with the clinical efficiency of a sniper. But make no mistake, whichever side of the divide these men fall, they are choreographing succession politics in ways not seen before. So essentially what the Standard is telling us is that around succession time, we have these merchants of power who begin to emerge. They say that Jomo Kenyatta had them, Daniel Arap Moi had them, Moi Kibaki had them. And every cycle we begin to see these men who start to wield power and try to dictate where the chips will lie. And they say that President Uhuru Kenyatta, his succession politics is falling into that same pattern. The men that they mention who are these new merchants of power are Murathe, Nje Muturi, and the new entrant, CS Peter Munya. My only question is, who gave these men power?
How do they even know this?
How do they?
So what do you think about this headline?
I think this is just an illusion of power.
It's highly speculative.
Let's toss it.
Completely speculative.
Completely
if you have power,
tossed.
it would be delegated, it would be given to you. I don't think I would. The Standard, who are they to tell me? Toss it.
Final headline, Moi, mover and shaker in the new Uhuru faction.
It's a nonsensical headline. Moi, mover and shaker in new Uhuru faction. Now, here's what they're saying. They're saying that TRT MP William Kamket said that he's here to show all his cards. Kamket added, in East Africa and beyond, Gideon has developed a close relationship with Uganda's Yoweri Museveni, Rwanda's Paul Kagame, Malawi's...
You read that so fast,
blah,
I can tell
blah,
you
blah,
don't care.
You don't
it's
care.
nonsensical.
I did not hear a word.
But you know the thing is, and let me tell you, the winning headlines is meant to lift the veil of ignorance. Now, there's a scheme here, and you must read this scheme, because if you don't question, then you remain a fool. Why are they saying Moi is a mover and shaker of a new Uhuru faction? It's because these guys have a new owner who wants to pit the have-nots and the haves. I am telling you. Now, by doing that, it now creates
that narrative
that the haves have ganged up against these have-nots. And now the have-nots have now to gang up together and now, take power from the haves.
Yeah. You know what was really interesting? As I saw this headline today, it reminded me of a story from the Daily Nation from either yesterday or today. And the headline was, KANU officials in Meru root for untainted Gideon Moi. And they said that he's untainted because he has not been associated with any corruption schemes. So I think, as you said earlier today, the media is either lazy or
evil. And if you bought the Star or the Nation, if you bought the Star and the Nation today, please use them as toilet paper.
In that case, I'm guessing we're tossing them.
Yeah.
What is our losing headline? I give the Standard.
Merchants of power, I would agree.
All of them.
And we had a losing headline from the Standard. On to the political pieces we call cartoons in this country, and we have a three-part criteria that we use to break down these cartoons for you. We ask ourselves, is it humorous or is it dry? Is it satirical or is it pessimistic? And finally, is it effective or just plain lazy?
You have caricature of Fred Matiang'i, CS Interior, and he's entering the Senate committee that was questioning him yesterday, and inside are cameras. Is he shutting them?
No, he's coming out of a room that says no cameras, no video, no microphone.
Absolutely. And next to him is a cryptic puzzle. Is that correct? And I think this was regard to, is it Wednesday, when he was invited by a Senate committee to discuss about the arrest of the three senators.
Yeah.
And he said to have said something, and which the Daily Nation, I don't know what...
misquoted him or created their own...
What demon got into their heads and decided saying that the CS has said something that he did not say.
I think this cartoon is fantastic. I think it's so funny that in the room there are no cameras, no videos, no microphones. But he comes outside to address those very same cameras, microphones, and videos, only to then give them a cryptic message that nobody understands.
Absolutely. You guys, I actually get the message. I get the feeling that the nation has a headquarters somewhere in Karen. Do you think so?
Let's put this cartoon in the parking bay and look at the Standard.
Standard, you have, wow, it's a drawing of a fist, and it is clenching the deposed president of Mali and the first lady. What's his name again? His name is Boubacar Keita, and the tombstone is labeled RIP military coup. This guy was deposed by a 25-year-old military rebel.
Yeah, the story was so interesting because he was arrested
Yeah.
and then he went on to resign
Yeah.
and dissolve parliament.
Yes. And I'm sure he did that under duress.
Oh yeah, of course under duress. I think it was after a long timeline or a series of events that kind of led up to his resignation.
yes.
I think it was bound to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know who the fist is meant to represent. I don't know if it's the military
Should
or
be.
the past history of coups that the country has had dating back to 2012.
Oh, yes.
Maybe it's their history coming back to bite
It's
them.
coming back to you're right.
I don't know.
You're
Yeah.
right. You're right. You're
Anyway,
right. You're right.
interesting cartoon. We know
Reaching
Gadon
out
loves
from the
his-
grave.
Yeah.
You're
International stories.
Yes.
Most
I say we toss
definitely.
this.
The star, Governor Anne Waiguru Ozod, and she is there in her bridal dress. And oh goodness Lord, ESSA is trying to have a pic there, and she's weeping under the
Is he the
bridal
groom?
dress. Who would know?
Who would
this?
know? We can't see the top of him.
Maybe he's a tailor who made the dress. Anyway, the caption there is nothing to see here, just a dress rehearsal.
And then also at the back where the extension of the dress is,
Oh, a fellow's trying to
you
peep
have
as
a
well.
bunch of other guys trying to look as well.
Well,
Bunch of guys who's holding up her train.
Yeah.
She's dressed up, decked out like a bride. Her wedding
is-
dress.
I think I don't know what to say, but I kind of like this cartoon.
Guys, it's so interesting. So many of our cartoonists have the most disrespect for Anne Waiguru. It's incredible.
I know. I can go back to the cartoon that they had of her when she was dressed provocatively.
But you know what? Me, I respect this lady. Someone who survives impeachment. I don't know how many.
Scandals.
This woman should be president.
All right, I say let's park that cartoon.
I say we pack the cartoon, but what is our winning cartoon? We tossed the Mali cartoon of RIP
Yes.
military coup. So we have in the parking bay ESCC dress rehearsal and
I prefer the Daily Nation.
Daily
the one of
Nation's
Matiang'i.
Matiang'i's cryptic message.
I like the Waiguru one.
All right, Miss K, as
I'm the
our
tiebreaker.
OG host, you're the tiebreaker.
Ms. K, be very careful.
Be very careful. Are you threatening me? I go with the dressmaker. And now for our final thought. But before we go there, I'd like to remind you to not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find us on your TV. We are on Pan, Free to Air, Go TV, and Star Times.
And now our final thought. It is inspired by a book entitled The Illuminati Facts and Fiction by Mark Dice.
So this week we were looking at secret societies. And I think what inspired us is last week the Deputy President decided that he wanted to bring the deep state into the foray. And so we decided to whet his appetite a little bit more this week and give him some more tantalizing secrets about other secret societies around the world. We looked at the Red Lanterns and the Boxer Rebellion in China. We looked at the Mungiki in Kenya. When we looked at the Knights Templar, the Christian,
Yes.
what were they called? They were like
Knight Templars.
the Knight Templar. They were like the army for Christians.
Yes.
And today we've rounded up by looking at the Illuminati, which I think is probably the most famous
Yes.
secret society in the world.
Yeah.
More than the Freemasons.
More than the Freemasons, which we will discuss in a bit.
Yeah.
So it has remained the focus of so-called conspiracy theorists for hundreds of years, up until even 2020, and people who reside in Karen. They have been called the puppet masters who secretly pull the strings of the world's events, from elections to revolutions, from business monopolies, stock markets, and stock crashes. So this book, Illuminati Facts and Fictions, is a book that separates fact from fiction and analyzes the various claims and evidence around the Illuminati. So I will answer two basic questions. What is the Illuminati and what did they believe? So to start with, what are they? In a historical sense, the term Illuminati refers to the Bavarian Illuminati, a secret society that operated, quite interestingly, for only 1 decade, from 1776 to 1785. The organization was founded by a Bavarian man called Adam Weishaupt, a German law professor who believed strongly in Enlightenment ideas. And so this group that he created sought to promote those ideas among the elites only. So until he was 36, many people would be surprised to know that he had this outward, show of being a family man. He was married, he had kids, but he was a deep enemy of the state. And his secret society, the Illuminati, was seen to threaten the very fabric of society. So he was born in what we know today as modern Germany. And as he looked like this conventional man, he then started to have these provocative ideas. He was convinced that religious ideas were no longer adequate as a form of belief systems for society. And he decided that he wanted to find another form of illumination. So he decided to have these radical ideas to change the way that European states were run. So on the first night of May 1st, 1776, the first Illuminati met. And they met in a forest, which I think kind of adds on to some of the weird things that they then began to do. And bathed in torchlight, there were 5 men. They were then to establish the rules that were to govern the order. The future candidates for admission were required to meet the other members' consent. They had to have a strong reputation, were well established, and had social connections and wealth. And so what did they believe? There are 2 sides to what people believe the Illuminati to have. There were these very strange rituals and their ideals. So they did lots of strange things. They used to have symbols, and I think we know some of their symbols as being the owl, the protractor, and the
compass.
What's the other one?
The compass,
exactly.
the
Which also shared by the Masons.
Same by the Masons, exactly.
Yeah, the compass in the mathematical set.
Exactly. They adopted pseudonyms so that they wouldn't be able to identify each other. And they had these complicated hierarchies in terms of how they operated. So you had the novice, the Minerval, and the illuminated Minerval. I think in total they had 33 different ranks about, how they were all leveled within the group. So in the beginning, the Illuminatis did not trust anyone above the age of 30. Because they said that anyone above the age of 30 was too stuck in their ways. But while they were following all of these bizarre rituals, they also promoted a worldview that reflected Enlightenment ideas, such as rational thought and self-rule. If you remember, Enlightenment dates back to the French Revolution, right? And so they had these anti-clerical, anti-royal ideals, and they said that they were closer to revolutionaries than to some of these older rulers who were there during the day. And so they sought to infiltrate and upset powerful institutions like the monarchy. Eventually, like most secret societies go, they were banned by the Duke of Bavaria in 1785, only after 10 years of existence. And so you ended up having these people being punished for being part of them. And even though the movement was disbanded, because of the myth and secrecy surrounding them, it's very unclear whether they actually were disbanded, whether they continued to exist in secret in other places. And I think there's a lot of secrecy existing behind them.
Mystic.
I know 2M will tell you that some of his favorite people, Jay-Z,
are
Beyonce,
rumored to be part of the Illuminated
exactly.
ones.
Those are just rumors for Africans. But I have
Such as yourself.
Those other Africans. I have a question for 2J. First, number one, do you think William Ruto's appetite has been? You say you wanted to whet his appetite.
Whet his appetite.
But second, you say there's someone who was called William Weishaupt. Is that correct?
No, Adam.
Adam. Oh, I thought there was some relation. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Now, I love the chapter on why are the Jews always blamed, and some of the reasons here are very nonsensical. But before I tell you why, let me just go back to my central thesis. You see, one cannot discuss the Illuminati without sounding anti-Semitic or without coming across anti-Semitic literature. They say, Jewish bankers rule the world. The Jews in Hollywood control the world.
If I could add to you, I think that two of the theories. There's a book that actually the book we're reading is more of a literature review. It quotes other books that have been written on secret societies, and one of the books, Secret Societies and Subversive Movements by Nesta Webster. This woman quotes 2 possible options for the formation of the Illuminati, and she says that one, this guy, Adam, was mentored by a gentleman called Colma, who had studied occulticism in Egypt, then came to Germany. But the second one, which goes to your theory of the blaming of the Jews, is that he was commissioned by the Rothschilds to develop the Illuminated one.
Within a conspiracy.
Yes. So I zeroed in on 2 reasons, 2 theories. The first one is something called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
Yes.
That prove that the Illuminati are controlled by the Jews. See, these documents were discovered in 1905, and they detail the need to control the banking systems, the political systems, the media. Now, Hitler himself believed that these protocols were authentic, and maybe that's why he did what he did to the Jew. But second is an interpretation of the book of Genesis.
Oh, wow, you're taking us to church twice.
Yes, and,
wow.
and the man of and the fall of man is also fueled by anti-Semitism. He says adherents to this theory believe that Satan had physical intimacy with Eve in the Garden of Eden and caused Eve to be pregnant with Cain, making himself half man, half devil. Do I need to go any further?
No.
No, please stop there.
Please stop.
I'd like to talk about the history and the connection between the Knights Templar, the Freemasons, and the Illuminated ones, the Illuminati. And I'd like to give you a historical record. Yesterday, we began with the Knights Templar. They were founded in the 1100s.
Yeah.
At the time when the Knights Templar were being come on hard, several knights who had set forth to rescue holy places in Palestine from the Saracens formed an association under the name Freemasons, indicating that their principal desire was a reconstruction of the Temple of Solomon. That's where the origin of the term Freemason comes from. They were actually builders. They wanted to rebuild the Temple of Solomon. And they were also from the order of the Knights Templar. So they say that out of the death of the Knights Templar, or rather out of the Knights Templar came the birth of the Freemasons. Then, within the Freemasons, it turns out that Adam Weishaupt then was a member of a Freemason order in Germany. And in that order, he then infiltrated it. And because of the similarities between the Freemasons and the Illuminati, he was able to get people within the order of the Freemasons to join his order. However, I'd like to quote another book from this book. I told you, it's a literature review.
Yeah.
And they quote a guy called Albert Pike, if that is his name.
Oh, yes.
Yes, he wrote what is known as the Morals and Dogma, which is a reference on Freemasonry. And within he levels the 33 different levels of philosophical teachings that are found in the Scottish Rite branch of Freemasonry, and that is what we know. So we know that the highest level that anyone can attain is a 33rd degree, and therefore when you get that, you get this book, this reference book on Freemasonry, and another one which is called Lexicon of Freemasonry by Albert G. Mackey, which is a list of Masonic terms and definitions. So when he is defining Illuminati, he then gives a story of Adam Weishaupt. And he says that Adam Weishaupt was able to infiltrate the Bavarian version of the Freemasons, but once they were discovered and they were shut down, as Tuje has mentioned, then there no longer was any connection between Illuminati and Freemasons. But again, as with all secrets, you can never really be sure what is fact from what is fiction.
That is true.
On a day when we had a losing headline from The Standard and a winning cartoon from The Star, I'd like to leave you with a quote. If you want to keep a secret, you must keep it from yourself. That is George Orwell. But then, again, we are told that man is not what he thinks he is, but what he hides. And borrowing from 2M today, let me preach a little bit. The thing that we hide the most is our heart. And out of the heart of man, his mouth speaks. Therefore, there are no secrets, because we say that.
Wow.
Have a great weekend.
You see why she's an OG?
Yes.